How goes it all? Welcome back to Patterson. A great and exceptional day. Let's get it in, and hopefully we don't commit too many sins. All right, so when it comes to the state of Florida, it's definitely like New York and California. The people that live there are in love, are basically in a love-hate relationship at this point, no matter what situation is living in Florida. Right now, where the middle class is basically dying, is the state of Florida, the state of New York, and the state of California. Other states as well, but those are the main three states. Only difference is with the state of Florida, there's no income state tax, but the job market is not the best because they're a little too dependent on tourism. Like I heard today, the state of Nevada is considered one of the most expensive states to live in, but once again, it's a state that is dependent on tourism. So it's a lot of seasonal work. So I don't know about you, but that's just not sustainable, especially in 2025 where the cost of living is very egregious and is becoming more and more egregious every day. And seeing 2 or 3 families having to live in a house and an apartment is just going to become the norm all over the United States of America. That's just my personal opinion, but I'll leave it at that. Anyways, state of Florida saw a very big boom specifically during the 2020 pandemic when loads upon loads of people moved to the state of Florida from Canada, New York, California, and various other places because they got tired of the lockdowns, they got tired of the cold weather, and they got tired of cost of living. But anyways, the egregious cost of living in New York and California, and obviously in Canada because it's more expensive to live in Canada. So according to the article that I read today, Tampa, Winter Haven, and West Palm Beach have a 70% chance or are at a very high risk of seeing prices fall, according to a new report by a real estate analytics company, Coately. Now we're talking about a state that's definitely a great place to live, but it's not. But like I said, it's too dependent on tourism. Prices are going to drop because a lot of people just can't afford to live there. Even the governor, in his infinite wisdom, is talking about trying to get rid of personal property taxes. Governor DeSantis of Florida, whether you're a fan of him or not, if you've seen my channel enough, you know I'm not a fan of no politician. They're all full of it, in my personal opinion. But anyways, on both sides. But anyways, they're talking about that, but I'm just like, well, that would affect whether it happens or not. If it does happen, lack of property taxes in the state of Florida would definitely hurt the budget of local municipalities. So I just don't see them voting for something like that. But that's just my personal opinion. Like I said, they may go for it, they might be for it, they might be against it. But I'm just looking at it from an economic standpoint, not a political standpoint, because politics makes me sick. Anyways, so like I said, great place to live, too dependent on tourism, and most of the state's economy isn't the best outside of Tampa, city of Tampa or Miami, and then outside of that is Jacksonville, Florida, because nobody, like the capital is Tallahassee, but Tallahassee, Florida might as well be Mississippi and Alabama because that's what it looks like. So, the 3 major cities is, St. Pete, Tampa Bay area, Jacksonville and Miami are the main places, and obviously Miami is the most expensive market in the state of Florida. You got the billionaires and millionaires moving to Miami, so it's a whole different ball game. But anyways, like I said, the rest of the Sunshine State is hit or miss. Medium list price peaked in 2022 at $400,000 after sharp up following COVID pandemic. The articles also stated that at a point, prices were up 49.5% from their pre-pandemic level in June 2019, according to Realtor.com. But the state is now experiencing an insurance and affordability crisis. Prices have softened statewide, with the median list price up only 33.9% year over year compared with February 2019. Prices have softened as for sale inventory has piled up in Florida, and this is true, and homes take longer on the market than they did in the post-pandemic buying frenzy because certain people can't get the insurance that they do. Homeowners insurance can't even. I don't think anywhere in Florida right now anybody can get flood insurance because of the insurance companies that basically pulled out on that one. And I'm surprised the local governor, who's supposed to be pro business, didn't figure out a way to work out a deal to ensure that the insurance companies could cover people if they get floods, because That's the one thing Florida and California have in common, is that California has the wildfires and earthquakes. Florida has the hurricanes, which is always preceded by floods. So, and insurance companies have pulled out of California because of the earthquakes and the fires, wildfires, and that's why, unfortunately, the last big wildfire that happened in California, I believe, was earlier this year. Early in 2025, is Pasadena and Altadena specifically, parts of Malibu, houses burned down, and a lot of those houses did not or could not get the proper insurance coverage in order to ensure that these people could rebuild their homes again. So that's just one thing to take into consideration. All right. So back to the story at hand. I'm gonna eventually go off on a tangent if I'm knowledgeable and passionate about something. But anyways, back to where I was at. And so with the lack of high-paying jobs, remote work jobs disappearing more often than we would like, more hurricane storms, a lack of decent homeowners insurance plans, also with more homes being unaffordable for everyday regular working people in the state of Florida, i.e. the people who work in the tourism industry. I guess this was inevitable to happen, where prices are going to have to come down because people's homes are on the market more and more. A lot of homes have become empty. A lot of Airbnbs. Airbnb's kind of going down. Eventually I'll be doing a video about Airbnbs, not because a lot of cities are, Tampa Bay specifically voted against having Airbnbs. And the thing is, with these local municipalities, regardless of what state it's in, it's mainly because of two specific reasons. One, they're trying to quote unquote increase the inventory of homes in the city, hoping that it would bring the prices down, which is not really happening. And then two, I'm sure a lot of the hotel, I can't prove this specifically, but usually being a lobbyist in a city, state, or obviously in Washington D.C. isn't illegal. So because corporations are people too, so the hotel lobbyists in each city are like, hey, we've been losing money for a long time. We want people to come back to our hotels, so therefore we want to you guys to limit or just all in out get rid of Airbnbs in your city, and we'll make sure we'll donate a significant contribution to your future campaigns for you backing us, because I always say it's the ones who can write checks that really make the decisions. But I'll leave it at that. Okay. And that's just what it is. So let's get into the main areas of Florida that's seeing prices cut. Number one, Tampa Bay, which is my first time visiting this year, with a median home price of $463,000. Tampa's ranked as number one market in Florida, with a very high risk of price decline, with a year-over-year home price change that is down 0.9% and an even bigger 1.6% decline from October 2024 to January 2025, according to Santeri Riley, who did a deep dive into the data. The main reasons for this shift are overdevelopment and supply surplus, affordability, a shift demand, and skyrocketing insurance costs. Florida's insurance crisis is no joke, he writes. And as I talked about earlier, it's not a joke at all. Homeowners insurance premiums have skyrocketed, making it much more expensive to own a home, especially near the coast, which is the main reason why people move to the state of Florida. It's like people don't move to the state of Florida to be in the inland aspect of Florida. They move to be on the coast. They want to look out, see a beautiful ocean, and see palm trees every day. Like, I wanted to move to the West Coast because I wanted to see beautiful palm trees, neighborhoods that actually specifically look like this, with the palm trees, but just to see the desert mountains all at the same time. But that was a dream back in the day. But anyways, this hits places like Tampa hard and can dampen buyer enthusiasm. Who wants to move to a paradise if it costs a fortune just to insure your house? And before I go further, I went to Tampa. Tampa's not a bad city, but I wasn't really impressed. Much more, the homes that are quote unquote affordable are much more older. The ones that are considered $500,000, and then the ones that look more beautiful and are more modernized are the ones that cost about $800,000 to $1 million. So yeah, it's just like it's an overpriced paradise, and it's just becoming more and more where even in cities like Tampa, in Miami, and Jacksonville, where you have a decent job market, it's not 100% dependent on tourism. Most of the jobs don't pay that much, number one, and then number two, it's not sustainable for your everyday working person. Florida at this point has got one thing in common with California. It's full of well-to-do people. Jeff Bezos, even the president of the United States now, whether you love him or hate him, he owns a nice estate in the state of Florida. A lot of rich celebrities live in the state of Florida because of the lack of the income state tax. And the taxes benefit the well-to-do more than it does the regular everyday working people. So it's just like, whether you love it or hate it, that's the truth, and that's just what it is. So it's just like Florida's basically for the well-to-do. It's not for the middle class, and the poor people are just there to serve the well-to-do. It is what it is. Love it or hate it. This has got nothing to do with Democrat, Republican. This has everything to do with checkings and savings. I'll leave it at that. Even Tony Robinson, who's a great guy. I've read a lot of his books and listened to a lot of his teachings on his, because he's a philanthropist and a businessman. He left California to move to Florida to save money on taxes. The rapper slash real estate guy Vanilla Ice left California to move to Florida because of the tax incentives, whatnot. It's like, because in California, as much as it might be my favorite state from the geography aspect of it, you're going to get taxed the hell out of it, and you're going to pay way more to live there, specifically if you are a rich person. Half of your earnings are going to go to the state and the local government. It is what it is. So there's not a lot of loopholes or tax incentives for rich people to live in California unless they just love the weather in California, because the summers in Florida, you can keep them. I'd rather spend a whole summer in California than spend a summer in Florida. But California has its own issues as well, just like the state of Florida. So that's why I said I'm not picking on any specific place. There's pluses and minuses to living in both places. You just got to figure out what works out for you. All right. Anyways, so number 2, Winter Haven, and I believe this is the area where the president lives at, where his Mar-a-Lago place is at. If I'm pronouncing it right, if not, oh well. With a medium house price of $305,000. Winter Haven this is not it. It's West Palm Beach. That's where Donald Trump lives at. But anyways, Winter Haven is nestled inland, making it much less vulnerable to extreme weather events. But it is still seen as 0.9% price decline year over year and 1.2% drop from October 2024 to January 2025. Winter Haven saw huge price jumps during the pandemic boom because so many people were moving there. This kind of rapid appreciation is often unsustainable and sets the stage for potential correction. What goes up fast can sometimes come down fast all at the same time. And I've never been to Winter Haven, so I'm not going to speak on it. But, look, I give Florida crap all the time. It is a beautiful state. I think it's overrated, in my personal opinion. If I'm going to pay $1 million for a home, I'm going to pay $1 million in California before I ever pay in the state of Florida. But with the housing market being what it is, spending $1 million on a house is not unreasonable. It doesn't seem to be, it's unreasonable, but it doesn't seem crazy to everyday working people, because that's just, you got people with $1,500 to $900 car payments, people with $3,000 to $4,000 mortgages a month. This is becoming the norm. Whether it's good or bad, it's another story, but this is what it is. So, all right. So that is that. All right. Last but not least, number 3, West Palm Beach, which, like I said, this is where Donald Trump's home is at. Like I said, a lot of rich Californians and a lot of rich New Yorkers moved to Florida for the weather and for the tax incentives. With the medium home price of $369,000, the Grand and the Spruce are large multifamily buildings with more than 200 rental apartments each that recently went up in the area. Luxury condo buildings such as the Bristol, the Berkeley are popping up along the waterfront, and GL Homes is planning a 10-block development of townhomes. Billionaire real estate developer Stephen Ross is spending $10 billion to add more than 600 million square feet of office space, 1.4 million square feet of condos, 700,000 square feet of rental and restaurant space, and 870 hotel rooms across 70 acres of land in West Palm Beach. Tourism. Additionally, luxury buyers have more options, so they can pull up stakes and reject an area if they start to get skittish, and it can be difficult for existing home sellers competing with the incentive-heavy new development. So with all that being said, West Palm Beach is for the well-to-do. And that's just what it is. Like I said, majority of all the metropolitan areas in America, specifically Florida, is just for the well-to-do, and more everyday working people are understanding that. So, but like I said, with Florida, it's just tourism heavy, and you just have to be able to go from there and see what works out for you. So, hey, the price is declining at specific percentages. Doesn't mean they're very high percentages, but they are declining. And if you're looking into investing in Florida, do your homework, go down there, see what works for you. Don't forget, Patterson Properties with wholesale real estate in the DMV area, in the Reading, Pennsylvania area, and Harrisburg area. All right. Don't forget, if you're a stock market investor, crypto investor, individual retirement account investor, don't forget to check out WEBULL/acornscrypto.com's Coinbase. All those platforms you'll be able to make some money moves, and hopefully you don't live broke like a fool. Remember, you can't get fired if you own the company. It's 2025. It's time if you don't own something to do great things like share and subscribe. Have a great day. Make money moves so you can't live broke like a fool. As they say in Spanish, bienvenido a la vida. Welcome to the life.